Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers.
And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 16, Episode 22. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Wednesday, Steelers Nation. Dave, looking back at Week 1, getting ready for Week 2. Mike Tomlin holding his press conference on Tuesday, and a new Steeler, former first-round pick, arriving in Pittsburgh today. So, Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Happy Wednesday to you. Happy Wednesday to the listeners. We've got, it feels like an exciting show today. Got a new Steeler to talk about that's going to be hopefully officially announced here, hopefully while we're on the show, so we can see what the corresponding roster move is. And we'll get into talking a little bit more about the Steelers Week 1 game against the Jets, what the All-22 showed us there. Mike Tomlin met the media on Tuesday for his weekly press conference, so we'll go over that. Yeah, good show on tap today, I hope.
Let's start with that new Steeler. It is Jabril Peppers, former New England Patriot, Cleveland Brown, and a former first-round pick. Pittsburgh loves their pedigree. They love Jabril Peppers. They loved him coming out of the draft, and fortunately did not take him. That was the year they took T.J. Watt. Peppers off the board by then. So it unfortunately comes on the heels of the news DeShon Elliott reportedly has an MCL sprain. Mike Tomlin's already ruled him out for this week. Seems like a week-to-week thing with Elliott, so probably in that same bucket Derrick Harmon was a couple weeks ago in terms of his status to return. But Peppers being added, like you said, we do not know corresponding move. We don't even know as of 10:16 Wednesday morning if this will be assigned to the 53 or to the practice squad and then have him elevated by Saturday for Sunday's game. We just don't know those things quite yet, but we do know, and that's confirmed by Tomlin yesterday, Jabril Peppers is now a Steeler.
Yeah, interesting ad there. That makes the 10th former first-round draft pick now on the Steelers roster at this point, and you get a versatile guy. Mike Tomlin talked a lot about the versatility of Jabril Peppers, a guy that the Steelers seem to have some interest in, obviously going back to the draft several years ago, and Michigan product. Mike Tomlin likes his Michigan men, if you will, has since bounced around, was with the Patriots last, and then I think he had that domestic violence situation there with the Patriots, and didn't they sign him originally to like a 3-year deal or something like that? I think he had kind of battled through, what was it, a shoulder and a hamstring or a shoulder and an ankle injury, I think, in part of 2024 with the Patriots. This is a guy that has obviously made plays in the NFL, a very physical player, very emotional player. There's a great mic'd up segment that I posted on my Twitter timeline yesterday from a joint practice from last season with the Philadelphia Eagles during training camp and all. So you get another experienced guy in there. I would imagine that he'll be in uniform in some way, shape, or form on Sunday against the Seahawks. And depending on how quickly they can bring him up to speed, probably will dictate how much he plays, but definitely somebody you can put in the box down low with DeShon Elliott with his recent injury, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, I guess, here in a little bit. But yeah, interesting ad. So like you said, I suppose there's an outside chance that he could be added to the practice squad, but we're not going, it feels like more of a 53-man roster spot, but we're not going to know for sure here until probably the next, I don't know, 10, 15, 30, 45 minutes or so.
Peppers, as you said, good athlete, physical, and like Tomlin, I kind of remember him from his Michigan days more than I do his NFL career. He was a do-it-all player at Michigan, played on offense, special teams as a return man. He finished 5th in the Heisman his last year at Michigan, which is really rare for a defensive player. So really fun guy, kind of a Miles Jack type of career that he had in college. I do wonder, will he play on special teams? Will he, I assume Chuck Clark will still start with DeShon Elliott out for this game, so I don't know exactly how that will all get configured, but I'm sure they'll figure things out. So it's a quality signing, just given the need for depth and somebody who can step in, pick up the system quickly, and help right away.
How old is he now? He
He is
is 29.
29, 30 in October.
Okay.
If it is 53, and our speculation is going to probably be useless by the time people listen to this because they probably know the corresponding move, but if it is 53, who gets pushed off the roster
Yeah,
for Jabril Peppers?
yeah, that's a great question because you've got a couple of guys obviously dealing with injuries in DeShon Elliott and Malik Harrison. Mike Tomlin already ruled him out for the game against the Seahawks as well. So I suppose, I mean, it could be either one of those two, although the report yesterday on DeShon Elliott, at least in the morning time, seemed to be favorable. I think the hopeful return for the Week 4 game against the Vikings was the initial report, and I don't know if we have one on Malik Harrison at this time. So obviously that will dictate when who is the lesser of the two injured, or if both those guys could be healthy enough that they don't need to go IR. Talking about Elliott and Malik Harrison, you could see either Seizi Otomewo or Logan Lee get waived and then shuffled to the practice squad to make room for Jabril Peppers on the 53 if that goes. So there's a lot of different options, and we'll sit here and wait for clarity. Hopefully it'll happen during this show.
Mm-hmm. That was my thought, too. One of those back-end defensive linemen, even with the Harmon injury, Otomewa inactive in this game. I imagine he'll be inactive for this next game, too, although they'll let practice be their guide, and maybe Otomewa is really hungry this week. But bottom line is I could see one of those defensive linemen get moved if there is not an IR corresponding move. I think Elliott will avoid IR, like you said, based on initial reporting. Harrison seems to be a little less certain on what's going to happen with him. But either way, good for Peppers to come in. And also, just by the way, since it's post week 1, these contracts these vets sign are not fully guaranteed. And so if you need to cut them mid-season once the group gets healthy, you can do that without assuming that whole cost. Very common for teams to sign some veterans after week 1. This was more injury related than anything else, but that's another factor in terms of seeing some of these vets find homes after the season opener.
Yeah, we see a bunch of them go around the league at this point. Cameron Johnston ends up with the Bills now as well. They're switching punters 1 week into the season here, so it's that time of year now.
Yeah, no surprise that Johnston found an NFL home. He certainly was talented to do so. So good luck to him against Buffalo, except when Pittsburgh plays Buffalo later this season. Dave, let's stick with injuries. Mike Tomlin holding his Tuesday press conference, ruling 3 players out for Sunday's home opener against the Seattle Seahawks. Those 3 players are rookie defensive lineman Derrick Harmon, who will miss his second game after spraining his MCL in the preseason finale, and then the 2 players hurt in Sunday's game against the Jets, and DeShon Elliott with his knee injury and Malik Harrison with his knee injury. So Peppers will help provide depth with Elliott out. Chuck Clark, like I said earlier, I assume will continue to start with Harrison. Only played 4 defensive snaps. Maybe Cole Holcomb gets a look. Don't know exactly how they replace Malik Harrison's special team snaps and multi-phase role there. Will they just shift people around? Will Holcomb get a bump? Could they bring up and elevate somebody like John Radigan, who was a core special teamer throughout his career, which included 3 seasons in Seattle? So that's the health. Tomlin said he's optimistic about Joey Porter Jr. with a hamstring injury and Nick Herbig, who did not play week 1 with a hamstring injury. Did not mention Skylar Thompson, who hurt his hamstring late last week, but dressed as the emergency third-string quarterback.
Yeah, and with today being Wednesday, the first injury report of week 2 will be out, so we'll get a little bit better idea, hopefully, of maybe Herbig and Joey Porter Jr., whether or not they're limited or full or something like that. So, and then once again, the roster move or moves will be a little bit telling later on today.
From Seattle's side, I think they're getting a couple players back, some of their pass rushers, maybe the Dr. Mel favorite Jake Bobo, but they will be without their second-round rookie Nick Emanwari, who had a high ankle sprain 5 snaps into his debut week 1. So we'll get the full report Wednesday. We'll talk to a Seattle Seahawks beat writer Friday and maybe get an update there, but they're going to be getting a little healthier and losing some players at the same time. So kind of in a similar boat as Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tomlin holding his press conference overall, giving that week 1 review, and certainly still plenty to work on. Tomlin talking about the need to improve, but happy to do so coming off a victory. What stuck out to you most from what Mike Tomlin said yesterday?
Oh, let me pull up I should have already had this pulled up here. Let me pull up the transcript from Mike Tomlin yesterday and some of the key things that he talked about here. Help me out here. What you want to? Evaluate Broderick Jones' performance. He said certainly it could be better, but certainly all of our performances could be better. As I mentioned, our quarterback got hit too much, and he was a component of that. And he was asked a follow-up question, do you worry about confidence at all with him? He says, no, because it's football. You don't get to the National Football League by being fragile emotionally. There's a lot of confident guys that I work with. You win some battles, you lose some battles. You come back fighting. That's just the nature of the men that play this game at this level. Kind of one for the Gipper there, sort of. Look, they're not, we talked about this we talked about this all off season when it comes to this offensive line and all. And, Broderick Jones kind of specifically with him going back over to the left tackle, they're not going to make any sweeping moves after week 1. They're probably not going to make any sweeping moves after week 2. But in a nutshell, this offensive line has got to get better. As we mentioned, by the time this team plays their game in Ireland against Minnesota, we're going to have a good sample size, especially against some of these fronts that you've highlighted throughout the offseason since the schedule was released, particularly when it comes to pass protection and all like that. One of the most discouraging things, and I think you're going to write about this later today, there were blown blocks by Broderick Jones in the run game as well too. I mean, just all around, it was a really sloppy game by Broderick Jones, I thought, and it wasn't just him. I don't want to just sit here and point a finger at him across the line. It wasn't good enough. Mike Tomlin highlighted that there wasn't enough successful runs, and successful runs in his book are 10 or 10 yards or longer. I think their longest run was 9 in this game. And kind of circling back to the big picture here, this offense, they did win. I thought Aaron Rodgers, for the most part, played a good game overall. He did exactly what you wanted to do, put the ball in the end zone, especially in the low red zone category. Converted some key third downs on this, but one of the charts that obviously comes out from all these stat guys that kind of real telling and kind of a good synopsis of this thing was, Aaron Rodgers' snap to throw time was one of the lowest in the NFL in week 1, and his average depth of target was also one of the lowest as well to go along with that. So if not for the 171 yards after the catch or thereabout in this game, and if not for Aaron Rodgers completing a couple of third downs in this game and converting inside the red zone, I know that's a lot of ifs there, but it just goes back to the sustainability that I think that we talked about. And it starts up front here. This team's got to start running the football better and take a little bit of this pressure off of Aaron Rodgers, and you just cannot have him getting hit 8, 9, 10 times and ending on the ground, especially for a guy of his age and a guy that's taken the amount of hits specifically last year that some of them I kind of worried if he was going to get up from. So, and he was also, Mike Tomlin was asked about Troy Fautano, and he said, just like Broderick, I thought he had some good moments. I thought he certainly could be better. As I mentioned, as a collective, we had the quarterback hit too often for my liking. We're back to the lab. So that's about 3 or 4 times Mike Tomlin and a couple of times I think in the opening there, he mentioned the quarterback getting hit too many times. So that's obviously something that's going to be something that they do have to get in the lab on this week and start correcting.
You finally get really good quarterback play. Now you got to protect it, and that's an obvious issue from this first game. And Rodgers got rocked pretty good, not just the sacks, but hit around some other instances too. And so you're really worried about that on the onset of the season. And the Jets have a good front. There's good pass rushers. It's a good scheme, but you're seeing that a whole lot this season. That cannot be the excuse or the explanation for why the offensive line struggled. You're going to take your lumps. Your offensive lineman's not going to win every single rep, but you lost way too many and too many in critical moments off of play action, third down, that kind of stuff. I mean, had Pittsburgh not come back in that game, what was it, the 3rd and 15, where Rodgers got sacked. That's probably less on the offensive line. It's more on good coverage, and Gainwell couldn't sustain his block, but just stuff like that really, really crushed you. I mean, Rodgers getting sacked on literally his first drop back of his NFL or Steelers career. So just stuff like that is not acceptable going forward.
Agreed.
But there's also not many remedies if these guys don't pan out. Internally, I talked about depth being an issue. Calvin Anderson's experienced, but he's not a guy you want to start long-term either. So it really is sink or swim with this current starting five.
Yeah, and you have Andres Pete obviously on this roster, but he feels more I'm more comfortable with him at left guard. You have Dylan Cook, I believe, on the practice squad, right? But you don't want to have to go down that road because it doesn't feel like it's going to be much of an improvement if you do. So Broderick's got to figure this out, and really the whole offensive line, because they've got to run the football better, and by running the football better, you're going to take a lot of pressure off of Aaron Rodgers.
From O-line to D-line, Mike Tomlin saying no consideration about shuffling up the defensive line, despite allowing 183 yards to the Jets on Sunday. Plans on keeping Keanu Benton in his spot at nose tackle, not going to move in Y.A. Black, at least not right now. So status quo with the defensive line until further notice.
Yeah, and he was asked later in the press conference about Y.A. Black, and could he potentially, and I think some of this circled back to some of the comments Carl Dunbar made about, is Y.A. Black nose tackle capable? And the short answer, and really a little bit longer answer that Mike Tomlin gave, was certainly he could play snaps at nose because he's a big man. He's able to absorb double teams and not be moved. He's capable of playing at further distances, at greater distances from the ball because of his length and his ability to cover spaces with that length, keep people off his body, and play the backside of runs and things of that nature. So that's what Dunbar was talking about when he highlighted his levels of excitement. This kind of circles back to kind of the defensive line version, I guess, if you will, of Broderick Jones. We got to see Keanu Benton start playing better, particularly in the base defense over the nose. I thought the second half was a little bit better for him overall, but the Jets were still able to run the football and block him overall in this game. In the first half, I thought Broderick was on the ground way too much. And look, the defensive line all across the board, specifically against the run, wasn't great, but I thought Daniel Qualley held up a little bit better, especially in some of those over the center 0 or 1 technique nose tackle type positions there. But I mean, this is Keanu Benton's job, and this is his role in the base defense, and he's got to get better. He's got to have that balance in there. He's going to face a lot of those double team duo type situations, and he's just got to hold up better. And not only that, he did make a couple of tackles within the game. I think one was more of a secondary one that kind of Watt initially forced there. But the defensive line as a whole, there were a handful of missed tackles up front within there that could have gone for fewer yards. I think even Y.A. Black had one within there. I know Cam Hayward had at least one missed tackle in this game. You'll hopefully get Derrick Harmon going here sooner rather than later, because Loudermilk's not a guy that you want playing 25 to 30 snaps a game. And, it's something that we talked about, the depth on this defensive line. So the sooner that they can get Derrick Harmon up to speed, the better. And they need to keep these off the ball linebackers cleaner as well, too, because that was, and I know we'll talk about this a little bit more, that was one of the other bugaboos in this game. Not only were the defensive linemen not being able to consistently get off blocks or shed blocks, but the second level defenders, specifically Queen and Peyton Wilson, had the same instances, and these guys are going to function better when they're kept cleaner.
No doubt about it. I know Benton's taking on a lot of water, a lot of heat from the fan base from a poor game. No question about that. You allow $183. There's a lot of problems to start up front. I think overall the defense did not get off of blocks, and that was the central reason why Pittsburgh's run defense struggled so much in this game. I'm not here to immediately jump to let's make a bunch of changes. I know that's not generally going to be teams, especially not Pittsburgh's, mode of operation week one, because week one can be funky and weird. You're learning more about your opponent, more about yourself, and so you're going to be a little, let's get a couple weeks, couple sample sizes of gameplay in there before considering or making any changes. But just watching Benton just didn't really even command many double teams. There's a narrative that he can't hold up against double teams. He wasn't getting doubled that often, period, in this game. You had a lot of just singles, and he was not winning those battles consistently enough. And so, I think about.
I know exactly the road that you're going down here. You would like to see Y.A. Black get a shot in there.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I'm not saying that's incorrect. That was my initial thought whenever they drafted Y.A. Black, but he's shown he can play defensive end. He showed he can play on the edges more than I thought that he could. So I'm certainly more open to the idea of kind of the Steelers' current plan. I don't know if maybe you play a Quale in base more often. You played a lot of 3-4. You played at least 20 snaps of your base Okie 3-4, where Benton was true head up nose tackle with two four eyes, two defensive ends shaded inside the tackle, and that's not really going to be Benton's game, is to play head up. He's better in a gap. He's better penetrating, getting upfield, using his hips and his first step to get through gaps instead of holding the point of attack. But here's at least one counterpoint. I mean, this time a year ago, Pittsburgh thought that first really 10, 12 weeks of last year, the run defense was excellent, and Benton was certainly part of that. So we've seen this defense be able to play well with Benton playing that man in the middle spot. So I wonder, in a situation where, A, you're not playing as much of your base 3-4, where Benton can be more nickel, will that help him at all? And then just kind of getting some more information on your opponent and what they're trying to do, and just kind of the getting through the season a bit more, will that help out Keanu Benton? Certainly, he's got to play better. It's a critical year for Keanu Benton, not just as run defender, but pass rusher. I'm just not here to go make a bunch of changes after week one.
No, and you wouldn't expect Mike Tomlin to either, but this is kind of the same situation when you get through these first four games. What are the Seahawks going to try to do? They're going to probably try to pound the run, right? Knowing what
Sure.
the Jets did, and they've got a fairly decent offensive line over there. Gray Zabel, I think a real quality young kid that's going to be tough to deal with on that side of football, and they're going to want to kind of hide some of the deficiencies that Sam Darnold has over there. So yeah, I'm not coming out and saying Y.A. Black needs to go to nose in week 2, but I think because of and once again, I'm not singling out Keanu Benton here, because across the line, the defensive front wasn't doing a good job of getting off blocks, and then there was some gap. I think a couple maybe gap issues within some linebackers and all, but and look, they knew better than to try to run to their right to TJ Watt side. So most everything either came towards the center or to the left side of their offensive line, and they just gashed the Steelers several times throughout that game that way. But Benton is a central focus of that, especially in the base defense there. We have to start seeing him get better, because once again, like you said, this is his third year now for Benton, and the Steelers have got to make a decision after this season. They don't have to, but it's generally the time, if they've got young players that they want to lock up, that after the third season, him and Joey Porter Jr. are two that are going to be in the crosshairs as far as, do you want to extend these guys to lucrative deals?
All right, and not off to a good start in that mission for Keanu Benton. So, yeah, I think week 2 is going to be really critical to evaluate where this run defense is at. I can understand, even though Pittsburgh knew it was coming, it's tough to face that hypermobile quarterback like Justin Fields, especially in a week 1 game. So you don't have that element in week 2 versus Sam Darnold. I know Jalen Milroe's there when he played one snap early against San Francisco week 1, so you may have to prepare for him in a package situation, but not on the every down basis you will, like you did with Justin Fields. And so that's going to be, I think, a truer test for Pittsburgh's foundational, fundamental run defense is at, and of course, Ben must play better.
And look, not only against the run too. They had Justin Fields was one of the quarterbacks this time around that held on to the ball, snap to throw time, some of the longest as well too. And there were certain situations where you felt that the defense should have finished some sacks, and they did.
Right, across the board. I mean, you can even say Wyatt Black had a couple sack chances that didn't. He had 2 pressures, which was great, but he didn't finish some of those plays, and that's the whole defense didn't finish. I mean, only 1 sack on Fields to me is a really disappointing number in this game.
Especially when we talk about needing this team to get back over that 50 mark again. On top of it, now you're obviously going to face a lot less mobile quarterback in Sam Darnold. But here's the thing: here is Justin Fields not only had not only did he use his legs, and we knew he would in this one, but he had the longer snap to throw time. And on top of that, he was making plays with his arm, and the talk was that rush and coverage go hand in hand, and you go out and you add to the secondary like this team did, and Ramsey and Slay and Brandon Eccles and all like that, and the defense is talking, the defensive front's talking about, if those guys can do a little bit better in coverage. And what did Watt say, or one of them say, if they can get them to hold the ball just 0.1 second longer, that's huge for the defensive front. But it wasn't the case in this, because even though the secondary might have held up a little bit longer on the back end, the defensive front wasn't finishing.
Sure. I just go back to Benton. I just think about last year with that run defense. I mean, the defense was elite the first 4 weeks of last season, and maybe that's a little of the matchup. They didn't face great quarterback play. They faced Kirk Cousins. Herbert got hurt in that Chargers game, but still, you saw some really elite level defense overall, including run defense, and Benton was a part of that. And I don't want to say that he can't play some good run defense. I think we have seen it before, but we didn't see it enough in this game. And if he can't even command those double teams, then the change you may end up making is in your base 3-4, which isn't used a ton over the course of a season, about 25%. It ebbs and flows. It was higher this week. It probably lower against Seattle, for example. But then maybe you think about you put a Quale and rotate him at nose tackle more often.
All right. Here's the thing: it should be better week 2, because if it's just as worse or just as bad, that's not a good sign 2 weeks in a row here, and it's hard to imagine it being any worse. Although we've seen it worse than we did against the Jets when it comes to playing run defense here. But it's you don't want to small sample size. You don't want to overreact, obviously, but the tape was not kind to the defensive line.
Yeah, what is the saying? 1 is a chance, 2 is coincidence, 3 is a trend, and so you don't want to get into that 2-3 times in a row, because it's just not how Pittsburgh is meant to win.
Right. All right. Mike Tomlin was asked about asked about Aaron Rodgers in this game. How did he think Aaron Rodgers played, and what did he say about that?
I mean, just generally praised him for his performance overall. Wasn't necessarily surprised by it, so nothing earth-shattering there. I think similar comments he made post-game about just how well Rodgers went out there and produced.
Yeah, let me see if I've got the specific quote here on Aaron Rodgers. He said, "I thought he was really good. I thought he was what we needed to be. Again, as I mentioned, not surprised by that. I expressed my levels of confidence, if you will, leading into the game based on what I saw from him in preparation." Aaron looked real comfortable overall in this. I thought he moved well outside of the pocket and got plays done. I thought his play action was absolutely fantastic, of being able to sell that. Real quick, I wanted to kind of interject in here. I know a lot of people are up in arms about the PFF grade on Aaron Rodgers, and it's I don't know if you heard the segment on 93.7. The Fan had the guy in there talking about the grade and all. And the bad thing about the PFF overall player grades, specifically when it comes to quarterback, is they obviously lack a lot of context within there, and not knowing exactly how they grade makes it hard to decipher, especially if you haven't watched the game within there. You look at the stat book: 4 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions, none of the sacks. I don't think were obviously were to blame on Aaron Rodgers overall in this. But I think that whoever it was that they had on there discussing it said the interceptable ball over there on the right side, and they seem to ding real heavily on that. And he made a good point. And look, you can't go through what if, but he did make a good point. If that ball's intercepted, game's probably over at that point. And also on top of it, was Aaron. Did Aaron have a lot of tight window throws in this game? No. And that's not his fault on a lot of these, because especially some of the touchdowns were schemed open very, very well, and it was a lot of just pitch and catch type of stuff there. So don't get either you like us talking about PFF grades or you don't. And if you see us tweet or talk about them and you don't like that, just skip forward in the show overall. It's something that we use kind of as a baseline. I think PFF does a lot of great stuff as far as time to throw stuff, some a lot less subjective type stuff. And look, the grading alone, you don't know exactly what the play call was and what the chores are on each and every play there. So there is going to be a level of subjectiveness. I think that I see some remarks almost every week. The PFF hates the Steelers. Do I believe that? No. I just think that their grading overall is just hard for even me to go through and say, why was this particular player graded so poorly there? But to a degree, I understand at its core why he got such a bad PFF grade. But the eye test, I think, overall, what Aaron was asked to do, and specifically the execution, generally, globally speaking, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, I thought was fantastic. I mean, look, they don't win that game if Aaron Rodgers doesn't do what he did in this game.
Sure, Dave, can I interrupt you here? We got the roster moves in for Jabril Peppers, and there's a lot of moves happening today for Pittsburgh. So just reading the team release here, Pittsburgh signing Jabril Peppers. It is to the 53-man roster. James Pierre has also been signed from the practice squad to the 53-man roster, and corresponding moves to free up that room. Malik Harrison and Skylar Thompson are going on injured reserve, so they'll now be out at least the next 4 games. Harrison with that knee injury, Thompson with the hamstring. He dressed for the game like we noted, but he's going to go to IR. And then the team signing Logan Woodside to the practice squad to replace James Pierre's open spot there. And so Woodside with the team in training camp, familiar with Arthur Smith, did not do well in the preseason, was a quick cut, but he'll be now this team's number 3 quarterback, and the team will carry only 2 on the 53.
Yeah, I think the good news first and foremost is DeShon Elliott does not have to go to IR, so that's promising there when it comes to that knee injury. James Pierre, at some point you knew he was probably going to be on the 53-man roster, so that's the case with him. The interesting with Logan Woodside is if this team does now, obviously Skylar Thompson going to IR, not going to be available to this team. If this team wants to dress 3 quarterbacks and have one of them as an active emergency, Woodside, it would have to be more than just an elevation, right? He would actually have to be on the 53-man roster, if I'm understanding the rules correct now.
Yes, you cannot elevate quarterbacks from the practice squad to serve in that emergency third-string quarterback role. I think in 2024, that rule was proposed and vetoed by either the competition committee or NFL or whatever powers that be.
All right, so more than likely this team's going to, because it's hard to imagine them actually signing Woodside to the 53 just to make him the number 3, right?
I think that's unlikely, although it is very rare for Pittsburgh to only roster 2 quarterbacks on the 53. The only other example I can think of that is in 2019 after Pittsburgh traded Josh Dobbs post-week 1 to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and of course, Big Ben goes down for the season the week after, and Duck has to scramble back, and it was a whole mess from there. So usually it's 3, appears to be 2.
All right, so we'll see how they handle this come Saturday, right? You no longer have to worry about elevating James Pierre, but you might elevate that new inside linebacker on the practice squad. And obviously you got Jabril Peppers on the 53-man roster. So, and with Malik on IR, you don't have to have him on the inactive list, but it would seem as though obviously that DeShon Elliott will be inactive, will be at least one of those.
Yeah, Scott Tomlin's kind of funny. He might be the first player to dress, not play a snap, and then go to IR after that. So just the way these things go. I imagine, I mean, he popped up late last week with a hamstring injury, so he probably was good enough to dress for that game where if you ever, God willing, needed him to hand the ball off a couple times, he could have done that, but maybe not a whole lot else. Does this open the door later in the season for Will Howard? Dave, he's still out the first 4 weeks. Can't come back until week 5's a bye, so basically week 6. Is that door swinging open for Will Howard now to return later this year?
Potentially it is, but obviously first we would see them open up the 21-day window on him to practice more than likely. So, I mean, we'll have to see. Obviously now Skylar's got to miss the next 4 games.
Right, so he can be right behind Howard.
And that puts it through. I mean, that puts it through the London game, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah. Is it 4 games or 4 weeks for IR?
4 games, I thought.
Because you have the week 5 bye, so I don't know exactly where that falls.
I think he has to miss 4 games.
Okay, so that would put you through then week 6.
Yeah.
Because you have the week 5 bye post.
And Will Howard you would think Will Howard would be ready to practice, fairly soon.
There's a clip post game, and there's a lot bigger moves here than Will Howard. Obviously, it's not going to impact Pittsburgh for Sunday, but there's a shot of him right after the Jets game, and I don't think he was wearing any sort of apparatus on that right hand. Yeah, I couldn't tell. You couldn't get a perfectly good look at it, but I didn't see anything in kind of the cobbling together of the images post game. He was shaking hands, I think, saying hi to Fields or whoever. So then he talked about him throwing again. Yeah, I mean, obviously Pittsburgh didn't initially put him on IR because they wanted to preserve those spots of those 2 return designated spots, the 8 that you get. And so they still may have that same thought, but this is a team that traditionally likes to carry 3 quarterbacks, and that could open up the window for him. Also, though, it's still possible where Thompson comes back in week 7 or so and returns as the number 3. So we shall see.
All right, so future minutia.
Yeah, future. That's the name of our cover band, right, Steve? All right, so Pierre Peppers and the IR. And then, John Madigan could certainly get elevated. Wouldn't surprise me if he was called up for this game to help out on special teams.
All right, picking up back, I guess, circling back to what Mike Tomlin had to say. What did you think about his response when he was asked about Kenneth Gainwell and his anticipation and usage out of the block to start the season?
Gainwell led Pittsburgh's running backs in snaps on Sunday, and Mike Tomlin said that was intentional. They like Gainwell. They like his receiving ability. He referenced the 3 receptions and 3 first downs Gainwell had against Pittsburgh last year in that win while he was with the Philadelphia Eagles. And so I don't think Gainwell is going to outsnap Jalen Warren continually, and then they threw a ton of running back screens in this game, so I think it's probably one reason why Gainwell was so active and involved, but Gainwell's going to be your number 2 running back. He's going to work in and filter in. They like him, and they'll continue to use him.
You think we've seen the highest touches in a game for Gainwell, at least between now and the time this team gets back from Ireland against the Vikings? 10 touches for what it produced. Now, it's just one sample size of a game. I thought Gainwell did do some good things on pass protection in that game, and obviously on special teams had the key forced fumble in that game against the Jets. But will we see him exceed 10 touches in the game in the next 3 games?
You do hope this team can run the ball more often. It'll maybe naturally lend itself to more touches for all the running backs, but 10 for the near future feels like sort of the high end.
Right, especially when you're only, I mean, that's, as we stated, that was like 20% of the offensive snaps that this team played against the Jets, and for him to only register 20, 23, 24 yards, whatever it was combined, I don't mind him touching the football. We just got to see him do more with it, and it does sound like, game situations obviously play into this. This team was in some unfavorable 3rd down situations. So we'll just have to watch and see what the usage is against the Seahawks now. But as I stated the other day, I was surprised to see him touch the ball that many times against the Jets.
From 10 touches to 10 snaps, Roman Wilson played just 10 snaps in this game. Mike Tomlin saying that, there's a little segue there for you. Not my first rodeo. Mike Tomlin saying that Roman Wilson not playing a ton, largely just because Pittsburgh didn't possess the ball a ton. 25 minutes time of possession outsnapped by New York. I don't know if that's the whole explanation overall. Calvin Austin played well, and he's, I think, clearly the number 2 receiver as of right now, but Wilson's still getting his feet wet.
All right. I didn't think he's going to be used heavily at the start of the season. And obviously this team used, quite a few 2 tight end personnel groupings. They only used, I think, 3 or 4 of the 13 personnel, and we did get 1 snap of 21 personnel in this game. That resulted, I think, in a pass over to the right side, a big gain by Jalen Warren, with I believe Gainwell was split out wide to the left on that play there. So Roman Wilson's going to be a game by game thing. Calvin Austin obviously represented him well against the Jets, so you're going to expect to see him continue to get the amount of snaps around that level that he got against the Jets on Sunday against the Seahawks. And unless they go into a lot of 11 personnel type looks, or they have any sort of an injury, because Ben Skoranek, he got his, what did he play, 10, 11 offensive snaps in this one, and he did some good things on offense. And I think you highlighted that in a film room up on the site today as well too. So don't expect much out of Roman Wilson here, at least in the next few games.
I mean, this thing will still ebb and flow. I think Wilson will have some better days ahead, but clearly the number 3 receiver, and even in some ways number 4 receiver, because of that role that Skoranek plays that I wrote about this morning. I think the stat was, and I meant to check our charting from Tom Mead, I think it was Adamski that said PFF didn't even chart Wilson with a route run in this game, that every time he was out there, Pittsburgh either ran the ball, there were some RPOs, I think. There was one debatable, was it a route, that one conversion to Metcalf, I think, on the opening drive. That was kind of a weird play. I don't know if you are able to go back and look at it, Dave, but I'm not sure what Wilson was doing, if the intent was for Metcalf to get the ball, if Wilson saw the corner blitz and just knew Metcalf was going to get the ball. That was kind of an interesting rep from him.
Yeah, I had to go back and look at that one. But, I mean, are you surprised at Roman Wilson's usage to start the season? I'm not.
No, not overall.
All right.
What else Mike Tomlin had to say? Anything else? It was kind of the big picture things, I think, that stuck out to me.
Well, what specifically are you looking for from your run defense coming up? I want us to be stouter. Yeah, in a nutshell. I wish you would have expanded on that. And he did a little bit talking about how you got to whoop blocks, right? And I think that's the overarching thing of this defense coming out of week 1, is they were not whooping enough blocks.
Yeah, I think there's no need to overcomplicate the issues. I mean, we can, and we'll talk about the All-22 and some of the details and specifics, but just be better. There's no secret the run defense was poor. It can't be that poor. It's got to be more fundamental. So for week 1, it's just about playing your game and doing your job and getting off of blocks and just very fundamental football, and that did not happen.
Right.
All right, Dave, anything else, Mike Tomlin, or we can get to the All-22?
All right, I guess we can start getting into some All-22 here.
One other thing from Tomlin, and we talked about it a little bit on the Monday show. Tomlin very openly disagreeing with that low block personal foul that Jalen Ramsey got flagged for, and that Justin Fields designed run. And Tomlin says it was the wrong call. I think he certainly has a case, but I know the NFL has really expanded protections on cut blocks out in space. Tomlin's point is that was not a cut block, that Ramsey was trying to go around the player to make the tackle. He didn't engage the blocker directly. There's a case to be made there. NFL saw it the other way.
Yeah, I agree with Tomlin on this one. I know he said he had been in touch with New York. I wonder if he will at some point. But I mean, he made it pretty clear that he disagreed with the call overall, and I did think that was kind of ticky-tack. I thought Ramsey was doing everything in his power to try to get to the ball carrier on that play and tried to duck underneath the best that he could.
Hopefully the NFL is not contacting him with one of those letters that say, you've been fined for criticizing the NFL. I don't think that raised to the level of fine, but you know how the NFL is.
Yeah, we'll find out Saturday.
Well, I guess I don't know if they announce coaches' fines, right? Is that a thing that gets talked about?
No. I mean, it will probably come
Ramsey?
out. Yeah, I was talking about Ramsey.
Yeah, I don't think Ramsey. Yeah, were they fined for that? I guess they could fine for that stuff on personal fouls. That'd be insane though if he got fined for that. That'd be crazy. But will Tomlin get a fine for openly criticizing the NFL, even though it wasn't a scathing remark? You just never know how the NFL takes these things.
Right.
All right, Dave. All-22 Steelers offense in this one. Got to review the film pretty good. What were your main takeaways?
Main takeaways, Carl already kind of hit on them quite a bit. The offensive line and the blown block specifically, in both the pass protection and the running game overall. There weren't a lot of creases or holes for this team to run through. A couple of times they even tried some gap scheme stuff, and not even that was overly effective overall. Once again, they couldn't run out of anything. 11, 12. Just Broderick Jones getting beat over on that left side was discouraging. The fact that they only had their longest run was 9 yards, as Mike Tomlin talked about, was discouraging. The other overarching aspect was how much of a quick game really where the success came from in this offense. And once again, it was Aaron Rodgers getting the ball out relatively fast. I think according to Next Gen Stats, he did have the lowest or one of the lowest snap to throw times, and then his average depth of target wasn't all that either. The fact that he was able to convert some of those third downs in this game and overcome some of this negativity really highlight really the quality of the game that Aaron Rodgers had. And I thought schemed up specifically in the red zone. What a great job, Arthur. I thought Arthur Smith really did a good job to highlight some of the things that he likes to do and to show some of the things that Aaron Rodgers can do. And the play action, we already hit on the play action stat the other day with Aaron Rodgers. I thought he did a good job of selling that stuff. And there were a lot of wide open throws in this game, specifically down in the red zone on the one to Jaylen Warren and on the one to Calvin Austin there. The fact that they motioned in Calvin Austin on that one touchdown, which caused the defensive backs to switch up and then caused the one on Calvin Austin in I think it was a cover one man type situation there. The defensive back trying to cover Calvin on that play was kind of flat-footed. I don't know if he was kind of peeking in at that play action fake, which was a very nice one by Aaron Rodgers on that play. Aaron had his complete back turned to I don't even know if that defensive back could have seen the football the way the angle was on that. And then he's just flat-footed, and Calvin just ran right past him. For an easy pitch and catch on that one. So I thought Arthur Smith called a really, really good game. It will be interesting to see now, and it's only one. It's one sample size here. Will we look? Do I expect Aaron Rodgers to hold on to the football closer to 3 seconds? No, that's not conducive to what you want to do with the lack of mobility with Aaron Rodgers. I would expect it though to be a little higher than it was in this game, and I would like to see Aaron Rodgers' average depth of target and completed air target go up, some moving forward here. I don't think that even though this team, and we've talked about DK Metcalf run after the catch, and there was a lot of great yak in this game, 170 something yards. What did that average out? What did I say that averaged out to? Like 8.7. I mean, that's insane for the amount of completions that Aaron Rodgers had in this game, which was 22 overall. I mean, normally if you can hit 4 yards on average per yak in a game, that's some high quality H2O right there. But to hit double that, I mean, that's insane. And I think it would be insane to expect this offense to be able to deliver that week in and week out. So yak played a huge part in this game. A lot of the screen game in there, but you go back to this team just did not block well up front overall. And that's something that we got to see change, because this just is not sustainable. It does not feel like, and they might go out and do it again against Seattle, but over a 17-game schedule, it just does not feel like you're going to be able to sustain and get that stuff out of Aaron Rodgers, and specifically when he's getting hit 8, 9, 10 times a game.
I am curious on the ADOT that you talked about, the time to, snap to throw times, because you had a ton of RPOs, you had a ton of screens in this game, a lot of running back screens, some successful, some very much not successful. So is that the base offense going forward? Was that more a product of who you were playing? Was Pittsburgh expecting the Jets to be really aggressive and send people and get the ball out quickly? I think certainly RPOs will be part of this offense. It has been, I think, historically, at least in recent years, under Aaron Rodgers. So that'll be something to watch for going forward, how much of that is going to be a staple of this offense, because that's one reason why those numbers are so low and quick, because they're so skewed when, a third of your attempts are of the RPO screen game variety.
And what did we say as far as true pass sets in this game? Like 10 or 11 of them
I think 10, you
overall?
said, yeah.
Yeah, so that's about what, a third basically of the dropbacks that he had in this game. Look, his time to throw was 2.43 seconds according to Next Gen Stats. His intended air yards was the lowest of the quarterbacks this week, 4.3 yards, and his completed air yards average was tied for lowest in the NFL in week 1 with Kyler Murray at 2.8 yards past the line of scrimmage. So that's dink and dunk, as the kids like to say.
I mean, it was, but I mean, Rodgers certainly made some throws downfield. It just, I think, got
Sure,
offset
the
by
Austin
all the
one,
RPOs.
yeah, two of the Austin ones, right? The touchdown and the one down the side, obviously, were. But imagine if you didn't have those.
Well, yeah, but you
I
did
don't
have
want
them.
to. Right, I don't want to cherry pick them, but I mean, thankfully that you did, because those were two huge plays in this game too. And then you did have the late third down down the left side to Calvin Austin, which I don't know how you feel. I thought that potentially was a pass interference call. Gene Steratore, who's slanted towards the Steelers side most of the time, thought it probably should have been called as well. But the fact of the matter is, here's what I think. You're not going to win a lot of games with a 2.8 yard completed air yard distance and an intended air yard average of 4.3.
Sure, I get
especially the way your defense played.
Yeah, that and the lack of a run game and all the other kind of stuff. There's certainly a lot has to change for this to become sustainable going forward. But I just thought overall, Rodgers' play action was really good. The ability to influence and get defenders to bite. I mean, you look at the Austin touchdown. I don't know. I think probably play action played a role in that. You saw Brandon Stevens step up and he slipped, and I think he kind of got a little lazy with his eyes, and Austin jetted past him. But Rodgers knows where to exploit matchups, not just the scheme, but who are the people to go after. That means getting your playmakers the football, finding DK Metcalf on third down repeatedly in this game. That's one element of it. But then also, who is their fish of the week, as Carl Dunbar likes to say, who's their weakest link defensively in that secondary? You had Sauce traveling with Metcalf throughout, I think, all but 4 snaps of this game. And so you go after the other guys, and Brandon Stevens was the guy to go after, and Calvin Austin drew him throughout the game because Sauce was following DK. And so you had multiple of those catches by Austin downfield, including that touchdown, working against Brandon Stevens. So kudos to Austin for making those plays. They were tough catches at that one down the right sideline instead of a touchdown. But Rodgers knows where to go with the football. He knows where those weak points are, and he's going to exploit it.
And that's why RPOs should be involved in this on a weekly basis as well, too, because he knows how to read it. He knows what whether to run or pass on some of these, especially on the early downs, obviously.
Yeah, and he was efficient. The Metcalf long catch and run was an RPO. There was a 3rd and 2 conversion to Jonnu Smith, which only got 2 yards, but you needed 2 yards there, and he picked it up. So I thought Rodgers made good decisions. Overall, I thought he made some really good plays in this game.
All right. And the run success rate was not obviously great in this one. That's got to get better overall, and something to watch moving forward. There just wasn't a lot of running lanes overall.
No, and Pittsburgh has to open them. So maybe a little more Darnell Washington would be nice in this game. There were some times where you were asking Jonnu Smith to block down tight. There was a goal line run where Jonnu Smith has to try to cut off the inside gap, and he doesn't, and that play gets blown up. So maybe a little more Darnell Washington wouldn't hurt in some of those run type of situations. With Broderick Jones, watching him, there were some decent reps. It wasn't all bad in this game, but it felt like his good reps came against those rotational Jets defensive ends. Michael Clemens, for example, who would rotate in number 72 with Will McDonald, and Jones won a good chunk of those matchups. And then versus McDonald, he really seemed to struggle. So those high-end toolsy rushers gave Jones a lot of fits.
I want to look at 12 personnel that included Darnell on the field. Let's see.
I mean, I'm sure none of the numbers are good because they didn't run the ball a lick in any situation. But, I think it's certainly not a bad idea to get your best run blocking tight end and, for my money, the best run blocking tight end in football out there more when you're struggling to run the football.
Looks like according to our Tom Mead, man, I mean, they used 12 personnel, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30 times.
I believe it. That's the Arthur Smith experience.
All right. Well, here's where I'm going with this. Darnell is number 80, correct? That would put him. How many of those 12 personnel groupings do you think Darnell was on the field for?
16.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, just not enough. That's not enough.
Right.
And
That's where we're both going here, right?
Yeah.
That's not enough.
I mean, I know you got a lot of mouths to feed, and it's hard to rotate, and you're paying Frymouth and Johnny Smith good money, and those guys can certainly still be assets. Frymouth made tough catches. Johnny Smith had a key third down or two, but yeah, I want to see more from Darnell.
All right, that's one change that we would expect or hope to see is more Darnell in 12, and then once again on 13 personnel, they use that 3 plays.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll see more of that going forward. You played from behind.
One of those
throughout
was a
good
sack.
chunk. Okay. Yeah, you played from behind a good chunk of this game, so that didn't let you really play from ahead and kind of probably utilize some of the big people that you would like to, but more of that will be good too.
I wonder of the plays that Darnell was on the field for in 12, how many were runs?
You said it was 10 total snaps. How many of those were runs? Yeah, go check that out.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And what was any success rate? It's a very small sample size, I'm aware.
Let me filter on down. Net yards 0.790.
And you had 2 of your better runs that day.
Mhm.
Is that the Warren, the 9-yard run? Yeah, that was a good run. Get you
Yeah.
at 2nd and 1, and you can't even get a first down off of that. You had, I think, a stuff. I think Jones got beat maybe, and then you had to delay a game, and it just was all. Even your good run ended up not helping you out too much.
So you've got a guy that a lot of people think should be a tackle in the NFL, and in an offense that you're expecting to see 2 or more tight ends on the field for, and you can only get them on the field for running plays of, what did I say, 6 or
4.
4 running plays with him in 12 personnel. I'd change that.
Were there any in 11 personnel with Darnell out there, or 13? Just how many running snaps was Darnell Washington on the field for on Sunday?
All right.
Is this the overall question to ask? Not a lot. I mean, they didn't run a ton in this game in general, but he had 4 from 12 personnel. He played 26 total snaps in this game, about half.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 runs out of any personnel with Darnell Washington on the field.
All right, so would like to see that number go up for Seattle and beyond.
All right. How about that for Digging Deep Live?
Nice. My favorite play call of the day was that touchdown to Jalen Warren. Really good scheme, the play action to hold those linebackers just for a second. That's all you need, a little half second. Those guys being slow. You had Rodgers moving the launch point. Connor Hayward cracking down just to get a piece of the D tackle, just to help Rodgers get wide. You had Warren fast to the flats. So tough to stop there down in tight. And that's pitch and catch.
Yeah, absolutely. Wide open for that one. And, I thought overall, outside of personnel usage, which we just went over there, I thought Arthur called a good game, especially down in the red zone there.
Defensively, your thoughts here, the All-22, the run defense. Do you have any more specific reasons why the run defense struggled, or was it just the broad strokes of just guys not whooping blocks, as Mike Tomlin says?
Yeah, look, I mean, you can't just sit here and pin it on one guy, I don't think. I mean, we talked about this earlier in the show. Benton down on the ground, quite a few snaps early. The missed tackles when the defensive linemen were getting off blocks. A lot of times they were getting off of blocks a little bit late, and they ended up trying to be arm tackle type stuff. I think Black had one of those. I think Cam Hayward had maybe two of those, and then the inside linebackers just unable to shed when they had people. Boy, you look at that touchdown by the backup running back there, where I think it was it Mimbo or the guard fired off and got a helmet right underneath the chin of I think it was Patrick Queen on that one there, and just to eat too easy in that situation. So you got to do a better job with these. And look, you're not going to have a thumper in there now, Malik Harrison. So what's that going to do in do you need to give maybe Cole Holcomb some more snaps and take him potentially away from Peyton Wilson in some of these early rundown situations?
I'm not at that point yet. I get what you're saying, and Holcomb is not a thumper either, so I don't know if it's a huge benefit. I think you want to give these guys time to sort it out and get better and learn and progress, especially a young guy like Peyton Wilson. But yeah, I mean, Wilson was not good in this game. Queen felt a bit better. I agree with your Monday evaluation, but even he was getting swallowed up by some blocks. And yeah, that touchdown that Braylon Allen had, I mean, I'm trying to think back. I think Black was off his feet on that play. Maybe Benton was. I can't remember exactly who was on the field, but it was just really ugly. Pittsburgh got really beat at the line of scrimmage on that particular instance.
As far as the coverage, I think we saw a healthy kind of mix of what cover one and cover three in this. A tiny bit of quarters. Was there like one play of cover zero in this one?
There was one, yeah.
As well. Justin Fields played a very good game. I'm not excusing the defense in this, but there was a lot of, especially those third down throws that I went back and was able to look at, especially from end zone type views. There were a lot of these guys Queen almost had a hand on one. I think Thornhill almost had a hand on one, and but they didn't get to him, man. When you're not having your pass rush, when Justin Fields was able to extend some of those plays as well too. We talked about the defensive line. The good thing is they were forcing, or Justin Fields, held the ball a little bit longer in this game than probably the Jets coaches probably wanted to. The bad part is they weren't able to get him on the ground overall, and the longer that's happened, the longer you're able to extend plays, you're going to have situations where quarterbacks are going to make throws. But I thought Justin Fields did play one for one. I thought he played well in throwing the football. And look, it goes without saying this game came down to making plays at the end of the game there. And on second down, Jalen Ramsey had a key pass breakup, and then you turn around on fourth down and he separated Garrett Wilson from the football, and those were two it goes without saying, obviously big plays and potentially difference makers in this game.
Yeah, I thought coverage-wise, you look at some of the metrics. I know you shared those last night in our group chat. It looks pretty similar to a normal Pittsburgh Steelers defense. A lot of cover three, not a lot of man coverage, which we thought would be an increase in this game. I think obviously facing a mobile quarterback like Justin Fields influences that. But even though the percentages weren't too far off from past years, I did feel like they ran more cover four in this game. And Mike Tomlin, he made a comment about that during the summer, I think during training camp, about what's old is new and things kind of returning in cover four quarters, returning more in the NFL. I think there was a comment from Mike DeFabo during OTAs about this team running more quarters coverage. And so it just kind of felt like I at least saw that more in this game than I've seen it in past games.
Agreed. And look, you're going to go against a lot less. I mean, Darnold can still get on the hoof, but obviously he's not the threat that a Justin Fields is. So you might be able to play more man. You got some good receivers that you're going up against this week as well too. In Jigba and like Dr. Mel, I'm a huge Jake Bobo fan with what that guy can do. So they have some weapons in the passing game, but I would expect, and we'll get into this on Friday, they're going to try to run the football and try to protect Sam Darnold as much as possible. And the defense has just got to be stouter against the run, and they've got to start getting home. One sack a game, as you stated. I thought Alex Highsmith, of all the guys on the defensive side of football, I thought Alex Highsmith was head and shoulders above everybody else.
Yeah, he got a lot of pressures. The metrics were good for Highsmith. Also, Seattle having Cooper Kupp, who was pretty quiet in his first game with Seattle. Smith and Jigba, I think, accounted for 80% of Sam Darnold's passing yards, but we'll talk about that for Friday's show. With the run defense, I mean, there certainly was a lot of... The primary issue was, to a man, the individual issues, but schematically, I thought Pittsburgh had some weird stuff going on, too. Maybe some miscommunication. I posted that one clip, basically 3 players playing Fields for the keep on a read option on one play, which has to be a communication breakdown of some sort. You had Watt and Queen keying it. You had Black stepping right on the outside. It's just probably some other small schematic wrinkles that you won't have to worry about nearly as much facing Seattle this weekend.
Well, as Mike Tomlin said, you get these guys on the field now for the first time, and a lot of these guys either played sparingly or not at all during the preseason there. So, and Mike Tomlin also said one of the things he said, this is our first 7-day cycle here, and it sounds like Monday was not bonus day for this team because they had to come in and look at all that film to correct and all like that. So we once again, you would think and you would hope that you're going to get a better defensive before. This was certainly not how you draw up Pittsburgh Steelers wins, I don't think, right?
Sure.
In the 30s.
Yeah, no, this is not the model. And even though there's a reason to sit there and say the model needed to change and not just win those rock fights 10-7 that you talk about, but 34-32 wasn't the way to go.
Now, it was good to see him put up the points. I ain't going to lie about that. It was good to see him go down the field on that opening drive, especially with some of the errors that they had in negative plays to go down like they did. And you're thinking right out of shoot, hey, even though the defense was sloppy up front, you're thinking, man, maybe they're cooking with gas here. So it was good to see the offense, specifically in the red zone and specifically overcoming the negative plays. As Mike Thomas said, they weren't highly penalized. Be interesting to see if that changes this week with who's the referee this week.
Is it Novak? What's his
Yeah,
name?
yeah. Scott Novak, and he doesn't that group normally call a lot of holding penalties, I think.
I think that is the reputation, but you never know exactly correlation, causation, that kind of stuff. There, yeah, can Pittsburgh score 30 again, Dave? I got a great set of the weird on the ready if they do it.
All right, I don't want to give that away yet. I don't even know it. Sometimes I like when you surprise me in these because I go, I did not know that. Did offensively in points per how many? What was the points per possession in this?
It's a good question. I don't know the points per drive. Let me see if PFR has that information. 3.09 points per drive.
That's not bad, right?
Yeah, it's number 6 in the NFL in week 1. Last year, they were at 1.91. And so it probably doesn't get better. 2023, 1.49 points per drive. So big difference, but obviously just one game.
And you can pretty much eliminate that final possession because it was the end of game possession on that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kind of true offensive possessions and 34 points. So I guess they eliminated that one because it's 3.4, right?
No, it's 3.09. So if they counted that one, it'd be 3.4 if they didn't count it.
All right, so that's very good when you eliminate, because you're not going to do anything on that final drive.
Yeah, they shouldn't count kneel downs and stuff like that. That skews the numbers. That'd be one thing that I would recommend. But anyway, any other thoughts here? Secondary Ramsey was really good as advertised.
Yeah, boy, what a difference. A physical guy overall set the tone for this thing. Did not back down from any of the confrontations, did not get penalized, which obviously is good there. And that's infectious, I think on both sides, there's a good clip of Roman Wilson mixing it up there with some of those guys. As long as you don't go over the line with any of that stuff, I think the physicality is infectious. And you got another guy that's Jabril Peppers that is not scared of anybody either coming to this team now.
That's a really good point by you, Dave. Something I noticed, a lot of these new additions, the energy they brought, DK Metcalf, mixing it up with Sauce Gardner, just being physical, those guys having really good battles. Ramsey, the tone setter that he was, end of the first half that hit on Justin Fields throughout the game, just the energy that he felt. Even Aaron Rodgers, which you see how pumped up. You think this guy still doesn't want to play football? This guy loves this game. I mean, he was fired up for the Boswell field goal, for winning this game, even though he won't admit it, I'm sure, for beating the New York Jets. And so those are new guys bringing not just the tangible, but the intangible, the way that they work, their practice habits, but also their love of the game, their energy. And as you said, that is absolutely infectious.
Tease Ben Skowronek real quick, Alex.
Yeah, that he is that dude. Skowronek had a whale of a game.
Talked about that the other day, didn't we? About when he's on the field, or at least in this game, he was kind of the offensive version of Nick Herbig.
And not just for the touchdown that he caught, big as it was, but as a blocker. Again, talk about energy, guys that are willing to do the dirty work, and that Zorro run scheme, insert blocks. He was a reason for a couple of these runs that were successful. Talking about on special teams, recovering the fumble that Gainwell forced, forcing fair catches, had a special teams tackle on kick coverage, a really good form tackle. I mean, you need those guys. You need guys that do the dirty work, that don't always make the box score, even though, of course, he did in this game with a touchdown catch. But, you need guys that can dig out the safety and insert block and be part of the RPO game where he had a good block on Sauce to help spring DK Metcalf. A lot of hidden plays for Ben Skoranek, and that's why he's on this roster.
All right, really good job on that. I want to make sure you got that out there for people to go see.
Yeah. And then Boswell, excellent special teams in this one. The clip Waitman bear hugging Boz even before the ball officially went through. They knew from the word go that ball was going through on the 60-yarder. And I got to tweet out the clip too on the 56-yarder that Boswell made first. What a great snap from Christian Kuntz, man. Laces out perfectly. Waitman didn't have to spin it at all. So great operation by all three of those guys.
Look at the 60-yarder as well, too, the way the laces end up. But Waitman had no problem with that one, getting that one down.
Yeah, the laces, I think he had to spin it a little bit. But, I mean, I'll watch the 56-yarder. I mean, it is dead perfect. I mean, it's exactly, and there's a whole debate about it I had on Twitter a couple weeks ago. The snapper is responsible for the laces. At the NFL level, you can control the rotation of the ball. That is certainly something practiced and not just something that is happenstance. Now, the holder is responsible to adjust the laces if they aren't perfect, and then often they aren't dead on perfect, and so he'll have to make those minor adjustments. But really, the holder is responsible for the snap count, snapping the football, securing the ball, obviously, and the lean of the football is really important to the kicker as well. But the snapper is responsible for the laces, and Kuntz did a nice job.
All right, why don't we give those guys week 2 off other than extra points?
Yeah, I'm all for it. As long as there's a lot of extra points. Hopefully it's not just one. But this offense certainly has some promise if the run game can get going.
All right. I think we wrapped up the All-22 walkthrough. I've already got the Seattle All-22 downloaded. We'll talk about what we see on that on the Friday show. Guess we can get to some emails now, huh?
Yeah, let's get some emails and close out today's show.
All right, Bryce says after rewatching the game, not only is 77 stance inconsistent, but he had really bad hand level and placement on most plays, puts him at a disadvantage. Left tackle might be his most natural position, but let me be the first to be on record to float the idea that he might ultimately be more of a left guard in the pros. Seems like at tackle he's still thinking too much, losing technique, kicking inside might have to be the move to take advantage of. You're not going to see Broderick Jones at a guard position, probably in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform either. He's going to sink or swim at tackle. And that, I mean, I guess never say never. I mean, Isaac Seumalo, probably his last year in Pittsburgh here, but you're not going to see Broderick's just got to get better at left tackle, period. In a story.
I meant to say this for the offense, been a lot going on in today's show. Seumalo, I mean, obviously he's a vet, he's trusted, but how good is Seumalo at this point of his career?
It wasn't like the rest of them. If any of them were good, it was Mason McCormick, and even that, the bar was so low that it just looked like the most salted pretzel in the group.
And even just broader than that, who is your road grader in the run game of this offensive line?
I mean, Frazier, but even he was coming off first blocks, flying by guys at the second level and missing them.
Yeah, I'm not even saying for this game, but just overall the construction of it. I think Frazier is your most physical, run your feet type of dude that has a mean streak, but you still feel like, and there's always a line between getting good athletes and guys who can run this outside zone scheme, but I just feel like where are the real just road graders for this team? And I'm still kind of waiting on that. Even with Fautanu, I think pass protection he's going to be really, really good in. Can he really get after it as a run blocker? I still have some questions.
Well, I mean, I see where you're coming from. There was no point in this game where you thought, man, this is an intimidating group where they even exuded, where it looked like that they knew they were going to be able to, just from an aura, you just didn't feel like, and you definitely saw this from the Jets, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. They really imposed the will. But how much have you gotten that feeling even last year about this
None.
offensive line? Granted, you've had some new pieces and hopefully guys ascend and get better. But yeah, you just haven't. It's been pretty fleeting to have that feeling of this group is just imposing their will. A little bit in the Baltimore game last year where you had some of those young guys, Frazier, really kind of getting after what you'd love to see. And again, Frazier's certainly the easiest thing to pick out in terms of guys who kind of have that mentality. But even McCormick, I think he's a physical old school dude, but his pad level's still a little high. You don't really feel him getting those pancakes and really driving people into the ground. And
Right.
I feel like it's still kind of missing from this offensive line.
Yeah, I mean they just don't. They're not that guys.
Yeah, that's a problem because
Yet.
these are your starters. These are your guys. These are supposed to be the guys who are supposed to start and be the dudes.
Right, and as we said, this group not only half a step, full step probably ain't going to be a good enough. If they want to make a run. We got to see like 2 steps forward from this group, and based on what we saw Sunday against the Jets, they might even taken a half a step backwards.
So all of that to say, whenever this team replaces, say, Malu, presumably in the offseason, there's always a balance to walk, obviously, but I'd like to find one of those real road graders for that
Ass
interior
kicker.
offensive line. Yeah, we need one of those guys.
All right, Todd Gensler, great podcast. Always my favorite and go-to. At what point do we stop calling it Tomlin's philosophy and start calling it coaching arrogance? Week after week, we see the same issues. Slow linebackers in coverage, players miscast in the wrong position, and zero in-game adjustments. Is this just blind loyalty to underperforming staff, or has Tomlin convinced himself that effort alone can out-scheme modern offenses? Look, I mean, I don't think it was so much schematics or anything, or coaching arrogance. It's just they weren't getting it done up front in this game defensively, plain and simple.
Yeah, I didn't think the issues in this game were central to a schematic problem. I think there's a couple things to talk about and maybe more miscommunication. That's also frustrating to have communication issues with how much it gets talked about, but it is week 1, so needs to get fixed faster. But yeah, I don't think it was an arrogance of scheme in this game as an
Right.
issue.
Nathan writes in, why is the immovable, space-eating, pocket-pushing nose tackle dead? A base short yardage and goal line immovable plugger is very valuable. Don't you think the Steelers are overvaluing the need for all of their defensive linemen to be able to rush the passer? How many sacks and pressures is your nose tackle really ever going to get anyways? It seems like Benton is bad against the run as the nose and isn't really that great rushing the passer from the interior. Wouldn't it be better to have an elite run stuffer, even if he is out there on some pass rush downs where the best he does is not allowing the quarterback to step up in the pocket? The Jets ran at the nickel also, and Benton got crushed as one of the 2 down linemen. It seems like he moved to defensive end and was a rotational pass rusher on the inside. It would be a win-win since he would. So he's saying should Benton be moved to defensive end, and then he's talking about here's the thing, and as we talked about, base 3-4 just isn't just used. Now look, the fullback's starting to come back. Everything's cyclical in the NFL, right? And we talked early in this show. Is Benton that guy? So far we haven't seen it, right? Collectively over 2 seasons and 1 game.
Yeah, no, we haven't seen the talent is there. We haven't have not seen him realize that talent. No.
Against the run, if anything, as a whole, in two seasons in 1 game, he's been average to below average. As far as the pass rush stuff goes, he still relies on that, and really relies on it in a run game as well too. That bat and swim over. And people are teams are catching on to that now. Now as far as is the plugger dead in the NFL? Here's the thing, you just those guys just don't grow on trees either.
But they're out there. The issue
out
is that you're not in base a lot. Pittsburgh, 25% of the time last year, you're in nickel. You need guys who can rush the passer in a more modern NFL that is more focused on the quarterback and the passing game and scoring. That is why it's not just in Pittsburgh, it's around the NFL. A lot of those guys have gone away, or you get the rarity of a Dexter Lawrence who's big and massive, but also really athletic. So it's harder to find that real elite guy. Obviously, I get the merit in it, and there's certainly some value in that, and if Benton's struggles continue, then, yeah, we talk about maybe playing a quality more because he's more of that prototypical nose tackle run stuffer, but that's the reason why, because you're just simply not in base. If your guy can't rush the passer, it's hard to justify giving him 40, 50 snaps per game, especially for a team like Pittsburgh that's gonna probably blitz more this year than last year, but not gonna blitz a ton overall and still wants that, core 4 to be able to get home, to be able to rush 4 and drop 7.
At any point with this team, once Derrick Harmon gets rolling, maybe consider moving while you have Black inside.
I mean, you may see it. I'm not really thinking that's the plan right now. And Black again has played well in his current role, so why move him around? Yeah, get Harmon back out there, face a non-mobile quarterback. Let's kind of see it from there. Is my approach in this one. I think Seattle game will be pretty telling about how good the core of this run defense is. Betting at end. I've had these discussions before. I mean, he played some Wisconsin, played a little bit when Cam was hurt a couple of years ago. I don't think it's going to solve all the problems. So it's kind of like, oh, move Broderick Jones to left tackle. It's not a cure-all just by shifting the position. If the technique's the issue and you're facing bigger people now at defensive end and tackles, you're still facing double teams from tight ends and from guards on combo blocks. So I like betting over the center because has the pass rush ability there, even though he's still got to finish plays, but being able to kind of squeeze through some of these gaps, I think that's wherever he works well. I think just getting him, he was too much zero tech in this game where he just was literally head up over the center, and he's better as a shade.
And if you're Seattle, don't you want him on the field, especially don't they have a pretty good fullback over there?
Yeah, I was watching the tape last night. Number 40, I'm not even sure who the guy's name is, but Seattle uses a fullback. At least they did quite a bit in week 1.
All right, so if I'm game planning them, I want Benton on the field over the nose.
Yeah, put Pittsburgh in the Roki front. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, for sure. Who is that fullback over there? Number 40. What's his name? Robbie Outs. Yeah, he's a rookie, but he played a ton in this game.
All right. From our buddy Joe Glusco. He's the one in York, PA. He says, yes, Bruce Arians went to high school here. We know over the past few years, the Steelers have won games with the defense dragging them to the finish line. Week 1 was a complete opposite with the offense and mainly the pass game carrying them to a win. My question is it more encouraging that we won this way as opposed to the defense winning the game? In other words, as a Steeler fan, is the 34-32 win more encouraging than if we would have went into MetLife and won a 9-6 rock fight? Yeah, that's a great chicken or the egg. Here's the thing, though. The defense made the plays at the end of the game. So as bad as it was collectively, the defense, I don't want to say effectively won the game, but they did put an end to the game there. And was it great to see this offense come out and score average 3.4 yards per possession? You dadgum right. It felt better. What is more encouraging, that the offense was able to overcome the defense, or would you much rather see a 9-6 rock fight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy to get a win, and even though the most encouraging part, I think, is you didn't play your best game and you still won a tough game where you were trailing against a good opponent in their place. Overall, would I rather have a 10-9 rock fight or this outcome? I'd rather have this outcome, Dave. I think the defense can get better. I think there's certainly a lot more meat left on that bone. And the fact that you've seen Rodgers be able to win you a game when you need it, you can't rely on that the entire season. But if you ever need that in a tough game, down the stretch, you're facing tough teams late this season, Buffalo, Baltimore, playoffs, Rodgers can provide that. So it's something new for this team, and this team needed something new, something to feel different. So a lot to work on, but that different in some way is good because there's movement instead of this stagnation this franchise has been mired in for 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
All right, good answer there. Craig Foster writes in, I know we weren't exactly high on Jackson Dart before the draft, but injury aside, would you trade Harmon for Dart right now? Imagine what the Steelers could do with all those draft picks next year if they already had a future starting quarterback on the roster. Would you go back in your time machine and do it differently? Craig, with all due respect, that feels like a question after this season, right, Alex? I mean, we're already getting into and Harmon hasn't played a regular season down.
And neither has Dart. Neither guy's played a snap yet.
I mean, I understand, Craig. It just feels like a question during the offseason there. Apologies there. Richard Jameson writes in, there's been speculation that the Steelers will need to sign James Pierre to the 53-man roster after he uses up his 3 elevations. Should that happen, will they need to negotiate a new contract, or is it possibility already included in his current contract from the practice squad, or do they simply revert in terms of his contract from well, James Pierre, as we stated, got signed to the 53-man roster. I believe that'll actually be termed as James Pierre, what do they call that? Terminating his practice squad contract. And generally, when you see this happen with these vets, they end up being 1-year contracts with the Steelers. Did it say in the press release whether or not it was a 1-year contract?
It didn't say. Peppers was a 1-year deal. They didn't say on Pierre, but it's going to be a 1-year deal.
It more than likely will be there. And no, it doesn't go off of previous contracts. But James Pierre is just happy to be on the 53, getting a regular weekly paycheck there.
That's probably for the minimum, though. 1-year deal minimum.
Oh,
is
yeah,
that, I assume
would
how
imagine.
that works.
Yeah.
Also, I'm pretty sure this is correct, but players who get elevated the way Pierre was elevated for week 1, they get paid a check as if they were on the 53 for the minimum. They don't get the practice squad check anymore, correct?
Right. They get whatever their minimum salary would be on a full 53-man roster divided by 18, I think.
Gotcha. Okay.
Brad Prentice, Peyton Wilson, love the pod and everything you guys do. Fans had high expectations that Wilson would have a breakout year, but it certainly didn't happen on Sunday. How much of his struggles were his own fault for not shedding blocks, and how much was on the defensive line for not creating lanes? Second, how long of a rope does Wilson have with a Cole Holcomb sitting on the bench? He says, I was surprised that Cole didn't really see any action with Wilson struggling. Look, This goes back to, was it great for Peyton Wilson on Sunday? No. Was it great for the defense as a whole, specifically on the run on Sunday? No. He was struggling to get off blocks and all like that. But I mean, let's let's not overreact to one game here, because I thought as a whole, Peyton Wilson played well overall last season. And I don't think we can just toss out what happened last season just for one bad game, not only from him, but the entire unit. So will we be watching Peyton Wilson moving forward, specifically week 2, and along with the rest of the defense? Absolutely. But let's not draw any hard conclusions off of just an offense or defense after just one game.
Agreed. Good answer. I do want to see if Cole Holcomb has any sort of role. They had Harrison filtering in a little bit, and Wilson, did come out in those moments. I know Tomlin in the presser talked about, kind of made a little joke about, Holcomb may get his chances, but what did Tomlin say? We're not running charity here, or no, he didn't say charity, but like Little League or something, where everyone gets a chance. So it's playing the best people.
Pop Warner.
There's a Pop Warner. That's what he said. Thank you. Yeah. And so we'll see if Holcomb gets a chance or not. But they like Wilson a lot. One thing, give me kind of a grinds my gears segment here, Dave. Can we get Peyton Wilson off the punt team? Can he not run down 40 yards on a punt and then have to play defense? That's not my favorite thing in the world right now.
He sure can run, though, can he?
Yeah, I know, but let's not make that guy go run and then have to exert some energy, then go play defense for 10 snaps.
A little bit of housekeeping here to finish up. Kenneth Gainwell cost a Jets player his job. They took their jobs. Xavier Gibson, the guy that fumbled on the kickoff return, was cut by the Jets today, and they signed Isaiah Williams. Not that anybody cares about that, but Aaron Glenn ain't screwing around over there, is he? Made a crucial mistake in that game. Gainwell made a good play ripping that ball out, and out goes the fumbler in that situation. One other bit of housekeeping that we forgot to get to at the top of the show. The Steelers waived Cameron McCutcheon from IR. He's healthy now. That was not termed with an injury settlement either. So Cameron McCutcheon got one game check at a split salary rate, and no injury settlement, and now he's off the roster. I would have to imagine Dominic Davis probably not too far behind him when it comes to that. So I think I wrapped up all the housekeeping there. And
Jabril Peppers, so I keep wanting to say Julius Peppers. I'm going to do that one of these times, so fair warning on that. Wearing number 40, he never had a chance. So it's over, Dave.
Oh, you don't like it?
Number 40? Yeah. For a DB, for a safety?
I don't know, but gotta be in material. That box like a linebacker, though.
Yeah, That's fair. That's fair. And then Troy's the exception for 40, DBs. But anyway, that's a number for Jabril Peppers.
All right. We will be back on Friday. We have a Seahawks beat writer lined up right now for the Friday show. You and I will turn our attention to getting into the Seahawks All-22 tape. We'll have our picks on Friday. I only got you by one, by the way. I was 9-7.
Oh.
You were 8-8 overall, but I did win, and that's all that counts there. But we will have our picks. We'll preview the game. We'll go over the injury report from going into Friday. Start looking ahead to the Seahawks game, which will be covered by Fox, by the way, on Sunday. Adam Amin, Mark Sanchez, and Christina Pink on the call for that game. And the coverage map is out for that game now, and you can find that post on Steelers Depot. So until Friday, you can follow me on Twitter/X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, sign up, get a username and password, and make sure you hit the log in button to utilize the ad-free version of the site. Until Friday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.